The word underrated gets thrown around a lot in the hip hop and rap scene. Now, a lot of the time it's not used correctly, as the meaning of underrated has been skewed and changed over time. People will describe just good and fairly rated artists as underrated just because they're not the most popular artist that there is. But in my opinion, one person who definitely does deserve that label when it's used correctly is Denzel Curry. His discography is one of the best in hip hop, as well as being one of the best feature artists at the moment. And he's also one of the best performers at the minute. And I know this as I went to see him live in London in June, and he was phenomenal. Yet despite all these strengths, Denzel sits on just 8 million monthly listeners. Now I know that this isn't the best way of judging an artist's popularity, but can you honestly say that Denzel Curry deserves 3 times less monthly listeners than Lil Baby? No hate to Lil Baby, but Denzel is levels above him, and I don't think there's any conversation to be had there. It also surprises me that more people don't listen to him, as he's made one of the best concept albums of the 2020s in Melt My Eyez, See Your Future. This album was very different to the rest of his discography, but is by far the best he's ever made. The album's title is a metaphor for Denzel confronting his issues and creating a better future for himself, which he does with the songs throughout the album. Therefore, this is a stark contrast to what he's previously made with Taboo and Imperial, yet it still works perfectly. So today I want to show you guys the genius story behind this album and some of the songs to persuade more of you to go and listen to this truly underrated artist and album. So as I mentioned, the album's title of Melt My Eyez, See Your Future is a metaphor for Denzel Curry aiming to confront the difficult issues in his life to create a better future for himself. The first part of the title, being Melt My Eyez, refers to how many people ignored those difficult topics, whereas the second part, See Your Future, refers to the positive future that he's trying to achieve. What I find interesting is that the album title specifically says See Your Future. He's talking to us, the listener. Now this to me instantly shows us that Denzel wants us to take something away from this album. If you come away with this album not thinking about yourself and just thinking it's a few good songs, then you have missed the message and you need to go back and re-listen to it. There's clearly a deeper reason for why Denzel has made this album and what he wants us as the listener to get out of it. The first song that I truly want to go into depth about is the opener, Melt Session 1. I find the actual title of this song very interesting, specifically the word session. Now I don't know about you, but the word session to me reminds me of a therapy session. And the fact that the first song is session number 1 perhaps shows us that each one of these songs will be tackling a different issue that Denzel has. He's letting us know from the get-go that this album is going to be a journey. There's a continuous link bonding all these songs, and that is him tackling these issues. This sentiment continues with the lyrics, particularly when Denzel says, 26 years on earth, my soul fighting habits that ain't even happened, my body been taking a liking to my lifestyle. I think Denzel mentioning his age is very significant. Being 26 means he's in the latter half of his 20s, so he's starting to get older. This means that he's probably starting to have difficult conversations with himself. His worries are becoming larger and more significant, and that could be why he's decided to start doing therapy. He then says his body is fighting habits that haven't even happened. This tells us that his body is not allowing him to actually create good habits, and this could be due to potential substance abuse. Perhaps he's tried to start good habits like sleeping well and eating healthier food, but he's kept in this negative mindset due to the substances that he takes. However, this, to me at least, seems like he's also deflecting the blame. Instead of admitting that he can't commit to good habits, he's blaming his body. And while I know that this is parts of him, it's not actually him himself, if you get what I mean. However, I haven't personally suffered with addiction, so perhaps I'm not the best person to speak on this. But as an outsider looking in, it doesn't seem that Denzel is taking full responsibility just yet. And I think that this is very important for the first song. It shows us that he's far from perfect and he still needs to go on this long journey with his sessions. But ultimately, Denzel has got himself into a cycle of destructive habits that he can't break out of. However, he is actually taking the first step and confronting them. As the song carries on, Denzel says, dealt with the thoughts of suicide, Women I've objectified couldn't see it through my eyes, so for that I apologize. This lyric, as well as the entire song, is very hard-hitting for an album opener. It shows Denzel laying out all of his issues for us that he deals with. With this line, he talks about his guilt of his previous objectification of women he slept with. Now, this guilt goes a lot deeper than just Denzel maturing and realizing that objectifying women isn't good. The main reason he probably feels so much guilt is because he was actually sexually assaulted as a child. So when he was a child, he was also objectified. So the fact that he also objectified people shows that he was a bit hypocritical. That event that happened in his childhood most definitely would have affected him, yet he's doing the same behavior that has caused him so much harm. Going back to the whole therapy session analogy that I mentioned earlier, this song has a very similar structure to a first therapy session. Denzel is laying all his issues out on the table for us to see. He isn't trying to confront them yet, but instead he's taking the first step and acknowledging that these issues exist. He has previously just ignored them and just pretended that they didn't exist. However, now he's starting to have these difficult conversations. And this is all to sort of free himself and create a better life for him in the future. The next song that I want to talk about in depth is Troubles, which features T-Pain. This song features both artists speaking on the issues that they've faced since they've become famous. I want to quickly go back to the title of the album and how I said that Denzel wants the listener to take advice from this album. This song is a perfect example of just that. Denzel and T-Pain are telling us that becoming famous won't solve certain issues. The only way to deal with them is to confront them, just like Denzel is. This album is essentially a lifeline for the listeners. Denzel is reaching out to people who have been in his shoes that just ignored their issues. He's showing them that there is light on the other end of the tunnel if they just do what he did. One important lyric comes when Denzel says, "Now we all just running routes, some fitting pieces to the puzzle." As Denzel approaches his 30s, so do all of his childhood friends. Therefore, he's able to see how all their lives are going now they've gone their separate ways. Therefore, he's able to see what mistakes some of these people have made that he's grown up with and the impacts it can have. This way, he is able to refrain from doing it himself and better himself. And in a way, that's what Denzel wants us to do with this album and him. Like I just said, Denzel wants the listener to grow and learn from what he has previously done. He wants the listener to see and hear the mistakes he has made so we won't do it ourselves. Denzel is now in a similar position to what his friends were to him. Whilst he learned off his friends, he now wants us to learn off him. The chorus of the song also features important lyrics when Denzel says, "Got some troubles that these drugs can't fix. We must struggle cause life's a bitch." This confirms what I previously mentioned about Denzel using substances as an escape from his issues in the past. What I find particularly interesting about this lyric is that he says that we must struggle. He makes it seem like there's no other option for him. Perhaps because these issues have followed him all his life, he believes that he's destined to struggle until he dies. Or perhaps he's been taught to not confront his issues and instead suck it up. Perhaps he wasn't taught to speak about his issues with a professional or with his friends, so instead he sucks it up and pretend they don't exist. And he's bottled them up for so long, they're finally coming out. Troubles shows a very unhealthy version of Denzel. While yes, he is famous and doing financially well, emotionally he's struggling. He's being plagued by issues that he's bottling up and he's using substances to try and deflect it. However, the song comes from a very mature perspective from Denzel. It's clearly not him in the middle of the issues, but a long time after. He's looking back at these problems and using hindsight to realize that what he was doing was just not healthy. The next song that I want to speak about is X-Wing. Now, this song is almost the antithesis of Troubles. Whilst Troubles talked about the issues of fame, X-Wing talks about what Denzel wants to do with his riches and fame. An important lyric comes when Denzel says, "Mask off when I'm back in the studio, Mac ain't make it to 27, Pac ain't make it to 26, B.I.G. ain't make it to 25, it's only right I gotta get rich." By saying his mask comes off in the studio tells us that music is therapy for Denzel. He doesn't hide who he is with his music, instead he shows all. It's his way of venting his problems and it's essentially therapy for him. This also gives more meaning to the title of the first song, Melt Session 1. Maybe it wasn't an actual therapy session, but Denzel sees music and making songs as therapy. He then lists artists who have unfortunately passed away, name dropping Mac Miller, Tupac, and Biggie. He mentions their ages as well, which I do find interesting. The oldest being Mac Miller at 27, which is the age that Denzel was when this album released. He probably feels blessed for making it to an age that many others don't. And perhaps he feels guilty because he's complaining about these issues, whereas other people die. Also, the order that he names his people and their ages does also interest me. He starts at the oldest of Mac Miller at 27, then moves down to 26 with Tupac, and then 25 with Biggie. It's almost like he's counting down, and this could connote how he feels that his time is running out. He believes he may end up like these people that he's mentioning if he doesn't confront his issues. He then says that he needs to get rich, and this could be his way of creating self-worth. He feels that the only way to be important is to be rich and famous. I think this song comes from a younger and much more immature Denzel, probably in the height of all his issues. He's spending his money and having destructive habits, not realizing the effect it has on him. In the chorus, Denzel says, "I don't want a car, I want an X-Wing. I'm just onto the next thing. Growing up, I didn't have the best things." Denzel is bragging here, saying that he can essentially buy any vehicle he wants because of his money. He then says he's buying all these things because he went without as a child. This provides us with a source of a lot of his issues. These didn't happen overnight, these have been brewing since he was a young child. This could also be seen in the album's opener, Melt Session 1, where he spoke about the previously mentioned sexual abuse that he was a victim of. It shows the listener that Denzel is a truly broken person with childhood trauma. This song is essentially a prelude to troubles. He hasn't quite realized that these distractions don't erase these issues. Or perhaps he does, but he's choosing to ignore them as he doesn't want to have these difficult conversations with himself due to his immaturity at the time. The final song I want to speak about is the album's outro, The Ills. This song is the perfect closure to this album and the journey that Denzel has been on. A beautiful lyric is said when Denzel says, "Lord invited me to stay idly on his left side so I can right my wrongs in these songs, to live and let die." He's saying that by using these songs as his therapy, he's able to forgive himself for his past issues. He doesn't feel like a hypocrite. He doesn't blame himself anymore. He's forgiven himself. For example, as I previously mentioned, Denzel probably felt hypocritical for objectifying women due to what happened in his past. However, now he's at the end of his therapeutic journey, he's able to overcome this feeling and can forgive himself for it. This song perfectly shows the listener that they can overcome their issues and they can create a better future. The Ills perfectly encapsulates the last part of the album, See Your Future. The final lyric of the album I want to talk about is when Denzel says, "Shelf all of my worst fears in the mason jar glasses, next to all of the dreams and things I ever imagined." Here, I believe Denzel is talking directly to us, the listener. He knows what can happen if you don't tackle these issues and just run away from them. It can destroy your life and ruin any dreams or prospects that you have. And Denzel probably knows this because it was almost a path that he took, and it's probably a path he's seen many of his childhood friends take. Denzel uses his life and himself as an example that there is light at the end of the tunnel. As he decided to face his issues, he was able to reach new creative levels and create his best album by far. And this was probably due to the better headspace that he was in. And this all goes back to when I said that the album's title speaks to the listener directly. Denzel wants us to think about ourselves after listening to this album. He doesn't want us to go down that destructive path that he was on. This album is an eye-opener and perfectly shows you why tackling your issues is so important. Melt My Eyez, See Your Future is one of the greatest albums of the 2020s, period. Denzel Curry is able to tackle newer and deeper stories and challenges while still keeping his signature style. That, accompanied with incredible production, makes this album truly perfect. And if that and the rest of what I've said in this video is not enough to make you go and listen to this album, just look at the stacked feature list. Jid, Black, and T-Pain are just a few of the incredible artists on the album. And I haven't even touched on the deluxe songs, all of which are incredible, my favourite being Chrome Hearts. If you haven't listened to Melt My Eyez, See Your Future for whatever reason, please do go and give it a listen. It is genuinely incredible and can make you rethink your whole life.